Here at the Giver Marketing Network, we don't leave you drifting out in space. We connect you to a coach who will help you build and grow your marketing business. Our process acts as a guide on how to connect with other businesses, maintain good relations, and establish a presence on the Giver Marketing Network. Each member within this collaborative group will have the opportunity to leverage your talent and influence, a true network effect. If you are looking to collaborate on more projects, welcome to the Giver Marketing Network, the most trusted and highest rated collective of specialists on the planet. Here we have a group of like-minded professionals who focus on making valuable introductions and helping each other grow by teaming up. Imagine Upwork meets a network and a coach. The talent collectively includes services like visibility and SEO, creating logos, designing websites, managing social media, outreach messaging, visual storytelling, and much more. Think of what you could do with laser-focused allies, strengthening your business while offering your talents to the entire network. Click near this video for more information.
Hello. Welcome to another Tuesday marketing broadcast with Giver Marketing Network. And we are so excited today. Shout out to all of our followers out there. And we're blasting out on Facebook, LinkedIn, a lot of private groups. And we're just excited to be able to share some marketing knowledge with you. Today's expert. Hi, Justin. Welcome.
Hey, Christine. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We're so excited. I know you've been doing marketing for a while, but tell me a little bit more about you and your background. Share with our audience. Let them know, how did you get where you are today?
Sure. Happy to do that. I'll do the brief version. So I've been a marketing nerd since middle school. And when my mom tasked me with, actually before middle school, my mom tasked me with designing the invitations to a tea party she was going to have. And that was the first time I used computer assisted design to design invitations, and I was hooked. In middle school, I designed logos with my buddies and then went to school for graphic design, got my feet wet in all things marketing when I worked for a $4 million nonprofit, doing all of their outreach and all of their content on the website and emails and things like that. And learned a lot about a lot in marketing, and then launched my own business in 2018. And that's where I am today.
Oh, how fun, right? It's a labor of love, right? Diving in. Fun background. I know for me, I always fell in love with all the marketing, and I know exactly what you're talking about. You're talking about making it for tea parties. I can picture stuffed animals sitting around a table. If I had thought of that, I would have done it when I was a little girl. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
How fun. Now, today's topic, you're really leaning into the LinkedIn space, right?
Yeah. Well, that's where I think we're at in the future now, especially with as online as everybody is. That's the place to be. If you want to be able to scale these days, you have to be able to learn how to use LinkedIn. I would argue it's become a necessity, not a nice to have.
Yeah, it's not just an option anymore. It's really one of the essential elements for growing your business. I love that. So I know you wanted to talk to us a little bit about that. Is this something that you're familiar with, this exact program that you're talking about?
Yeah, well, we were talking about this right before, and you said you should talk about that. So I'm going to talk about that. Essentially, I have been using these systems. I'm going to show everybody in my own business. And so this is the very edge of my knowledge. And we're going to learn, basically, I'm going to unpack how I use these very same systems, this exact process in my own business for our audience. And I'm going to keep it as simple as possible, because if there's one thing marketing is good at, it's getting very complicated very fast. So I'm going to try to keep it as simple as possible, because ultimately none of these systems I'm going to unpack are going to make you go, I've never thought about that way before. But what they do is you combine them in a certain way that will be effective for your marketing efforts, right? It's not, here's this one hack and one tactic. Hacks and tactics go away so fast, and they burn out so fast these days, whether it's an email thing or a keyword SEO thing or whatever. This is not a hacker tactic. This is how you can combine a variety of well-known, already used tactics on LinkedIn to generate a regular stream of conversations that lead to leads, that lead to business.
All right. So putting it all together in a consistent way so you can get those consistent results. I love it. Let's do it. I'm going to bring your slides up. There we go.
So today we're going to talk about how to get leads from LinkedIn the simple way. This is not about how to go all in on one big tactic. We're going to learn basically some of the tactics we do. There's essentially 4 major tactics. We'll get to that at the end. But how do you put those together in a way that makes sense on LinkedIn? And I'll give you kind of the behind the scenes, some screenshots of my own process and explain how I do it. And the goal is you walk away from today understanding how to use LinkedIn to leverage it effectively, because a lot of people are using it partially. And we're going to talk about that, what that looks like and why people are not getting the results they want.
All right. Well, take your notes, get out your pen and paper, or make the notes in the chat so other people can benefit from those also. Because I think we're going to get some nuggets of wisdom.
Yeah. Put your comments in. If you got questions, that's what this time is for. I'm an open book. I don't hold anything back. I'll tell you if I've tried it and if I haven't, and what I think about it if I have tried it. So today we're going to talk about 3 things: the why, the how, and the what. Why trust matters in B2B sales. We're going to touch on that briefly and really unpack what it means for online business. We think, well, trust absolutely matters, but we're often thinking of it in a person-to-person context in B2B, but we forget there's a whole online process for this, and we forget the importance of how trust transfers without that person-to-person touch point. We're going to talk about how to build trust quickly. There is a way to do it effectively and quickly. And then we're going to talk about the anatomy of a trust building system. I'm going to show you behind the scenes of my own system, some screenshots like I mentioned before, and a little bit of not just the how to build trust, but what are the specific steps you need to do to have an effective, complete system for your business to generate leads on LinkedIn, because it is possible. I do it every week. You can too.
Nice. Let's dive in.
I'm excited because this is something I've never done comprehensively like this. So this is everybody's getting to hear from me the first time here on this at a comprehensive level. So about me, I grew up first 13 years of my life in France. So I do speak French fluently. I am a huge nerd. So the middle screenshot is me playing D&D with some buddies a couple years back. Then the third image there is me with my family. And we do have a 4th on the way due in August of this year. So
congratulations.
Found out this week it's a little girl. So we're very excited about that. All right. So beyond, my personal, who am I? You get to know that. You should know that I also am very active on social media, specifically LinkedIn. My philosophy with my video, I'm a video first content creator, you could say, where I create content specifically for LinkedIn for the B2B community. But I then take that, I take those assets I create, and then my team then publishes them to other platforms as well. So what that means is I know a lot about LinkedIn. I know very little about the other platforms. And I'm just going to let you know, I'm not an Instagram expert. I am not a TikTok expert. I know a little bit about each platform, but my main thing is LinkedIn because that's where the money happens. My philosophy is if I have the asset, might as well put it other places. But so far, those aren't generating leads for us. They generate views and followers and things like that, and that's nice. But ultimately, LinkedIn is where the rubber hits the road when it comes to making money. And we're going to talk about that today. I've published hundreds, probably maybe thousands of videos for my site. It could be over 1,000 now at this point for myself. We're talking short videos, and that's my main cup of tea. That's what my business does for clients primarily. But we've also done this for clients as well. You can see a few screenshots of current and past clients. We're all in on short form video. That just means videos under 2 minutes or so, typically vertical, that show up in the feed of the people in your network to help you build trust quickly. So that's my thing. That's what I do. That's what my agency does. And but beyond video, you do need a system. We're going to talk about that. Before we talk about that, let's talk about part 1, why trust matters in B2B sales. And I really want you to understand that if you don't have trust, you don't have business. A lot of people want the sale, right? I want the sale from doing all these things, but they're forgetting about what it takes to get a sale in B2B. I always say you don't buy a $50,000 service from somebody you don't trust, right? You kind of intuitively know that, right? Doesn't matter if you're a corporation or a founder or business owner or somebody working within an organization, you're not going to pull the trigger on that budget line item without getting to know somebody at the organization first. So you need trust in B2B. And that is the full context today, by the way. We're not talking about B2C. We're not talking about D2C. We're talking B2B. You need trust. The old way is oh, just going to meet with them, going to go to a conference, going to do, go, you have a whole sales team, and the sales team goes out and they rub elbows with people in the right watering holes. And that still has a place, and it will always have a place. But there's this whole element that these organizations and founders and sales teams are missing often, which is LinkedIn, and leveraging LinkedIn as a watering hole versus just depending on the old ways of going to conferences and webinars, doing things like that, which again, still have value. I'm not dissing them, but there's this bucket of opportunity that a lot of businesses just have not cracked. And that's what we're going to talk about today, how to build trust with you. Now, this is the first thing I want you to be aware of. A lot of companies are leveraging essentially the old playbooks of the past to try to build trust. When you think about marketing and branding, you think about big and bang, and you're trying to make an impression at scale, and that can work, but it's very, very hard to do. It takes a long time. It takes a very solid message, and then you got to repeat that message and its various nuances to various audiences for a very long time. And I've done branding. It's very effective, but it's tough to do because you're literally copying the same big playbook as a lot of these other organizations who are doing it better than you. And they have bigger, better budgets as well. So instead of trying to copy the faceless corporation playbook that everybody else is trying to do, why not shift to a model where you're starting with the human? You're starting with a person. And this is where thought leadership comes in. Now, there's various definitions to thought leadership. I was talking with a prospect yesterday, and she said, thought leadership to her meant, kind of the cutting edge, the trends, the big ideas. And then she said, but then there's the practical tips and stuff, which don't fall under thought leadership. And I thought that was a good point, right? Thought leadership it can be defined many different ways, but the idea is that you're getting to know an individual with thought leadership content. And that's what we're going to talk about, is why thought leadership content is the key for this whole model we're going to talk about to work. Building trust in an individual, not in a corporation. Nobody trusts corporations anymore. The studies have shown the stats are way down for trust, but we still trust individuals, especially if you can leverage systems like what we're going to talk about today to build that trust. So trust matters in B2B, but let's stop trying to build trust in corporations. Let's build trust in individuals. I mean, at the end of the day, that's why sales teams exist. It's an individual trying to go talk to an individual and leverage that trust to have them make that $50, $100K, $1 million purchase. Kind of intuitive, right? None of this is going to be like, oh, duh. But this is a good way to look at this whole system. It starts through the channel of the individual, not through the channel of the corporation. So some reasons why we want to think about thought leadership is because specifically video content, because that's where we're also going to be talking about how it's not just thought leadership, it's thought leadership video. And those go hand in hand, because that's what my agency sells. We're not selling, all sorts of stuff. We sell, video, and this is our thing. But why you want to think about thought leadership and video hand in hand is because it acts as a fantastic social proof. You ever watch somebody do a video on a topic versus any other version of that medium of that topic? So if you read a text post on LinkedIn of somebody talking about something, then you watch a video of that same person talking about that same thing, which one do you think is going to be more effective for building trust, right? We kind of know video intuitively, of course, because you get to know not just what they say, but what they're like and how they think and how they process it, right? So it's fantastic social proof. It makes sales easier through this study that was done by LinkedIn and Edelman, I think a couple years now ago. They found that 9 out of 10 executives, decision makers, agreed that when preceded by good thought leadership content, they were more open to sales and marketing efforts directed at them. It kind of makes sense, right? If you kind of know where somebody's coming from, you get to vet them, you get to see their content, and then they approach you for the sale or with some kind of an offer, you're going to have that trust built up enough that you're going to say, yeah, let's do this. Let's have this conversation. So this is why I want everyone to be thinking about starting with the individual thought leadership, not some corporate messaging, corporate advertising, but starting with the individuals on your team or the individual on your team. If you're a solopreneur or a founder, this is why you want to start from a personal message out to the world and to your network versus trying to copy what everybody else is trying to do. It makes everything easier. So that's the foundation of what we're talking about today, why trust matters in B2B. And we're going to dive into the next part here Before we do, I want to talk about this idea that how LinkedIn, even video, even some of our clients, we experience this. We often think about LinkedIn as a place where you just kind of go, it's like any other social media network, right? We think, oh, I'm going to go post to LinkedIn. I'm going to post to TikTok. I'm going to post to YouTube. I'm going to post to whatever. And that'll create a demand for what I do. But LinkedIn is a very different platform. People aren't aware that LinkedIn prioritizes presence on the platform. Meaning, if you show up and you make comments, you respond to DMs, you make connection requests, you do events like what we're doing right now, live events, LinkedIn will reward you with literally more reach. The algorithm is designed to give you more reach on your content when you spend time on the platform doing other things. It is, and I argue, primarily a networking tool before it is any other type of platform. Meaning you have to spend time on it and you have to get to know the people in your network and you have to build relationships there to get the most out of it. You cannot expect to post and ghost. You're posting content and you're going to ghost, not spend any time and then get, you can potentially do that on other platforms. I've heard stories of people that's how they do it. YouTube, long form videos, TikTok, things like that. You can post, not respond to any of the comments and get leads. That's a completely different strategy. What we're talking about today is how to get leads with LinkedIn. And to do that, you need to recognize, first of all, this is not a platform where you can post content and expect anything. You have to leverage it. And we're going to talk about what those activities need to look like so you can spend time on the platform effectively. So first, mindset shift. Don't look at LinkedIn as a platform to post and ghost like every other platform. It is primarily a networking tool. Is this resonating with you, Christine, so far? I know because you do a lot of LinkedIn.
I do a lot with LinkedIn, and really those are good advice, even with all the other platforms too. The idea of being able to post, drop it, and then just leave it is kind of an archaic thought process if you actually want results out of your postings, regardless whether it's Facebook, LinkedIn, especially with LinkedIn though, right?
Yeah,
Big
yeah,
time.
especially with LinkedIn. Yep, totally. So what we're talking about today is a system. I've talked about it a while now this way, where if you just think about LinkedIn as a post and ghost platform, I'm just gonna get post content and get inbound leads. It can happen. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but it's like boxing with one glove. You can do it, but it's not very effective. You're going to get hit a few times. You might miss a few jabs. It's going to be very ineffective. But if you pair posting on LinkedIn with other activities, outbound activities is what we can call them, connecting with people, commenting, sending DMs. So you have both gloves at this point. You have inbound and outbound. And together, you've got a complete system for how to generate leads. Now, obviously, inbound and outbound is a good way to look at this, but it's not enough. We need to go dive into what does good inbound look like? What does effective outbound look like? And how do you pair them together in a comprehensive system? We're going to do that. But again, this goes back to that mindset shift. You can't post and ghost. You can, but you're not going to get the results. It's going to be like you're boxing with one glove. And this is why so many people get frustrated by LinkedIn and the other platforms. Well, I tried the social media thing. It didn't work for us. Well, it's because maybe they had poor systems for posting. It wasn't sustainable and the content wasn't resonating. But more often than not, they don't have a very good second glove in the outbound. They don't have a system, an effective system for how to reach out and touch someone online and build that trust individually beyond just the content that they're seeing from your feed. So we talked about why trust matters in B2B, why it is an opportunity on LinkedIn. Let's dive into part two. How do you do it? How do you build trust quickly in an online environment? COVID introduced this, online world to a way bigger audience than was used to being online a lot. The Zoom calls became a thing back then, and they still are today. It's funny because before COVID, I was doing Zoom calls all the time. So I don't think I've ever shared this before, but when COVID came, it changed literally nothing about how I ran my business. And I'm sure there's a lot of entrepreneurs out there going, yeah, I feel bad because like everybody else was disrupted, but it didn't happen for us because our, first of all, our client base wasn't affected. There's a whole story there I won't go into, but I was already doing everything online anyways. But this is the world of the future. We're going to be seeing that because it's so much more efficient. I don't have to get up and ready and go to a conference. I don't have to go to a call. I'm not saying these things are bad, but there is a different way of running a business these days that a lot more people are using. And so we're going to learn, how do you leverage the online world beyond just Zoom calls? How do you build trust quickly without that face-to-face call? So That's important to know. So there's 3 tips I have for us today. And this is not a comprehensive list. This is just when I was thinking, how do we do it internally? The first is you want to leverage profiles, not pages on LinkedIn, because that's the context. Again, B2B sales on LinkedIn. We're going to basically be talking about, we are talking about profiles here. So instead of thinking about, again, we're not trying to copy our competitors, a big corporate brand, start with a big corporate brand, no, which is pages. Think about profiles instead of pages. So if you're producing content, produce it at the individual level, not the corporate level. And if it is at the individual level, post it to your individual profile and then share it to your page. That's what I recommend to all my clients. They always ask, should we start with the page? Should we start with the profile? Always start with the profile, because it's going out to the people that already know, like, and trust you the most. And then if that's effective, their secondary degree connections will see it. That's how LinkedIn works, by the way. A lot of people aren't aware that LinkedIn is not one of these platforms that's designed for visibility. Like TikTok is like the platform. If you want to be seen by a bazillion strangers as fast as possible, TikTok is your platform. Now, there's a huge asterisk at the end of that statement, because people are going to expect a very different type of content from you than just B2B content. But if you want your content to be seen by the same trusted network over and over, LinkedIn is the way to go, because LinkedIn algorithm prioritizes your content to your first degree network, and then if it's successful, to your second degree, and so on and so forth. So that's why you want to start with your profile versus your page. Pages on LinkedIn get very, very limited visibility unless you put ad spend behind the post. Profiles get a ton, or at least historically, not so much these days. The algorithms have kind of suppressed reach. That's a different story. But the point is, your content as a profile gets way more reach than any other type of what a page could do on its own.
Yeah, Justin, what pops in my mind when you're talking about that is kind of like how people will use automations to collect followers, right? So if you're collecting followers, but you haven't built a rapport with them, they're not engaging with your content, you're not engaging with theirs, it doesn't really do you a lot of good, because LinkedIn's not going to really show your stuff just because you're connected with them. It's looking for that interaction algorithm, right? And so a lot of people think that's going to solve the problem, but it's not. Now you have a really large audience and still no one's seeing your stuff because you haven't developed the relationships with them.
Yeah, that's a great point. We're going to talk about some of those activities you can take to make sure your network sees what you do. But yeah, it is, even if you do connect with a bazillion people as first degree connections, you're right. It doesn't mean they're going to see your content. You have to spend time on the platform. You have to be present, like we talked about earlier. So the first tip for building trust quickly, start with your profile, not your page. I'm not saying you can't use your page. You can go on from your page and share your profile content, but do that. And then the second tip is connect with buyers and partners. A lot of people forget that LinkedIn is not just a place for prospects. It's a place for like-minded sellers of what you have. Maybe they're in a similar niche. They serve the same audience, but they're not doing what you do. So for example, an HR consultant pairing up with an attorney, like connecting with attorneys who specialize in HR, right? That would be a great partnership. Well, why not connect if you're an HR consultant? Why not connect with more attorneys who are in HR? And then as your content gets seen by them, and then maybe you take those conversations offline, which we'll talk about that here in a second, you have a huge referral network of people that got to meet you in person, but also continue to see your content on LinkedIn. And that's exactly how I leverage LinkedIn for my own business. I primarily, for the last 2 years of doing this actively, have been using LinkedIn not as a prospecting tool, which most people think of it as, but as a partnership finding tool. Mm-hmm. And then I build relationships with those folks, and I'll talk about how I do that in a second. And then they see my content after the meeting or after the second meeting, whatever. They start seeing my content. And then a year later, 6 months later, 2 years later, I get a referral from that large network of people that know, hey, Justin's a video guy. He helps people with video on LinkedIn to get leads, blah, 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 right? Whatever that story is. And then that's how I leverage my partnerships. It's referrals on steroids using LinkedIn. And so that's the second point is, yes, connect with your prospects, the buyers of what you do, so they can see your content, but also don't forget about the partners. This is an example of a screenshot from a DM from back in February this year. connected, and and this is a simple message I use for, I vet profiles of people I want to connect with. I have a VA that helps me connect with the right people. We have a vetting process. Are they a good fit? We have certain indicators. So this person was a good fit. I connected with them, and then I sent them a message. Hey, so-and-so, good to connect. We serve a similar audience. And I know that because we vetted them, and I wouldn't have connected with them if I hadn't known that already. Worth a chat, right? So I serve B2B founders and sales directors and folks that are in B2B sales. And they serve them. Usually these are ghostwriters, PR folks, things like that. Worth a chat. And 9 times out of 10, if people are on LinkedIn, like these folks I try to reach out to, they're going to say yes to that. And you can see they did. This week's Little Nuts. How's next week look for you? Nuts for me too. And so I sent them to my Calendly. And in full candor, this person has not yet connected, but it's because LinkedIn inbox sucks and they forgot about it. So I'm going to bump it up to them here in a few days.
You got to bump it once in a while. Yeah.
Hey, do we get a chance to connect? There's various follow-up messages you can send, but this is an example of a very simple, right? This is not a, hey, we should connect.
Yeah.
No, this is the value to a partner conversation is instant. You know my people. I know my people. Let's connect. Let's see if there's anything here. There's no fancy.
They don't need a 7-paragraph essay. No. Scroll and moving on, right?
Right. This is a quick decision, right? We serve a similar audience. The value. So what does someone read? When you see that, we service it, and they're going to they're going to go to my profile to check, make sure that's true, right? And my profile's set up for success. We're not talking about how to do that today, but you want to make sure there's certain things you're checking off for your profile. And they're going to say, yeah, let's do it. And it's very effective. I have connected with well over 150 people in the last 2 years who serve my audience. And those people my base of referrals is from these types of connections I make from people on LinkedIn. I don't get any local referrals ever. I don't think I have a single client from local referrals.
And a lot of people don't realize that connecting with people within your industry is an important part of LinkedIn. They actually consider that a ranking skill, right? On how well they think your profile is put together, how much they're going to show you. They look for that you're connected with other people in your industry.
Cool. Are you talking about, is that part of the social index profile, whatever they call that?
There's a score I was just looking it up to find the word for it.
There's something index. LinkedIn. I've never paid attention to that number. It's funny because I hear people talking about it like it's a magical number. And one day a while back, I looked it up. I was like, what's my score? Oh, it was 70 something. And it was higher than some of these LinkedIn gurus. When I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'm doing things right, but I don't care about this number. What I care about is making sure I'm connecting to the right people. Right. If you do the right activities on a consistent basis,
exactly,
then the numbers that matter, the index scores or whatever happen, I suspect, that's the point of what I'm talking today. Stop trying to chase numbers and these, these.
Well, there's a reason why these are the right behaviors, right?
Exactly. If you take the right behaviors, you don't have to worry about the right numbers. Mm-hmm. Yep. That was just a funny little anecdotal story there. So connect with buyers. Tip number 2 with how to build trust quickly, connect with buyers and partners. Because as we all know, referral is worth its weight in gold in the world of B2B, right? I trust you. I know you. Oh, you referred me to so-and-so, then that trust gets transferred. And then you can earn the sale much faster. Sales cycles speed up. So this forms a foundation for a really decent strategy on LinkedIn for how to leverage partners and partnerships to get results faster with LinkedIn. It is a long play. It is a long-term play. Just because you get meet with somebody doesn't mean they have a referral for you right away. But you can follow up, and over time you get those referrals. And that's what I'm experiencing in my business. It took me a long time. It took me about a year of doing activities like meeting with different partners to start getting a steady stream of referrals. I was getting them onesie, twosie, which is encouraging. But now I'm getting referrals almost every week from my partnership network of 100 plus people I've connected with on LinkedIn. And the third tip for how to build trust quickly is start with video. If you, again, we go back to that example. If you read a blog post by somebody, first of all, you probably don't even know they wrote it. You're just reading content because you're trying to scan read it, because we all scan read everything on the internet. Or you watch a video by somebody for 30 seconds. Which one is going to get you to know that person just as much as the content they're delivering to you, right? Video unlocks trust faster. So that's why I want everyone to think about video first strategies. This is a whole talking point that I talk about a lot in my business because we're a video agency, but If you start with video versus having it be something you stretch towards every so often, we're going to try to get video done, and we got all these resources and all these people, and it takes so much time and effort and equipment. We're done. We got it done. Okay, let's not do that in 3 years, right? Instead of looking at it that way, what if you started with video? What would an effective, sustainable solution look like to do video? And if you think about it that way, all of a sudden now it's not about production quality. It's about value you share in your content, and you're testing things and you're trying things and you're learning faster. And then you're also getting the benefit of staying in touch with your audience with more touch points, more regularly. That's the whole point. It's about regular, consistent touch points with a sustainable system. That's what we give our clients. But that's why I always argue start with video. And there's a way to start with video. We'll talk about here in a little bit how to actually do that. But when you start with video, it makes other content easier. If you have a video asset, if you have a transcript and you have the words already said, you can turn that into 1 or 2 or 3 posts, right? You can turn that into an entire blog post. You can add it. Heck, you can add it to a blog post, or you can create a blog post about it and add it. And then guess what? If people are searching for that, they get not just your blog post potentially, but your video on YouTube showing up. Executives prefer video. There was a study done where 59% of executives were asked, would you rather, if you had to learn about a topic and you had a video and text, what would you prefer? 59% said, I would rather watch the video. This is not a kid's thing. A lot of people still forget. Now, we all like video. It's not just a generational thing. It builds trust faster. We knew that intuitively. And then LinkedIn has a video feed that is new. A lot of people still aren't aware of it. If you pull up your LinkedIn app at the bottom, there is a video feed there. But videos also show up now on LinkedIn as differently than they have before. So I'm pulling up LinkedIn right at the bottom. There's a little video button. You can see it right there. And you tap on that, and it looks like
all of your content will be. I walked away from a BP
that. Basically, Reels or TikTok. But video is what LinkedIn is moving to. It recognizes that a lot. I think because, this is my theory, I think LinkedIn knows that AI content is a thing, and it recognizes that, well, what's one way we can protect against AI slop on our platform? And they recognize that video is one of the ways you can do that. It's not impermeable. You can still have AIs replace you in video, but it's still very uncanny, and you can usually tell it's AI. But I believe that's why they're finally catching up with all the other platforms, is because they recognize, if we're going to make be the platform for thought leadership, which is their play, they're trying to become that place for thought leadership. We need to we start with video. So LinkedIn has become a video first platform.
I think it's the whole idea of authenticity, right? The video being more authentic. It's a real person, a real thinking thoughts and sharing those, right? So there's a certain amount of being able to build a rapport with somebody. You feel like you know more if you've seen the video, right?
Exactly.
You get a feel for their personality, their style, are they uptight? Are they very authoritative? What's their personality, right?
Yeah.
And we can fall in love with the personality. That's where the whole influencer side comes into play.
Yeah. Yeah. I've talked to clients before, and they say, I don't want to be an influencer, but I want to have influence. And that's why you want to do video or do any kind of content on LinkedIn, because your influence will precede you. That's basically what thought leadership is. People are, and we talked about that before, people are more open to your sales outreach efforts when they know you're creating content that's valuable and helpful.
That's a great point, right? You might want to write that down, y'all. I mean, the idea of, do you want to be an influencer or do you want to influence, right? Mm-hmm. So what's your goal? And when we think of influencers, a lot of times we think of things that aren't real deep. We're not thinking thought leaders, right? We're thinking of, doing funny things or silly things on media and that kind of stuff, right? We're not thinking thought leadership. That's really the difference, right? Especially when you're playing with the LinkedIn audience.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely. This is not about views or being a content creator or going viral. This is about consistently having a system to get in front of your people and just teach them one little nugget at a time.
Like our Tuesday marketing broadcast.
Hey, there you go. Join us next week. So that's why trust matters in B2B sales, how to use it with a platform like LinkedIn. We just talked about those 3 tips for how to do that. Start with your profile, leverage video. And yes, it is. You might think, well, video is not simple. Yes, it is. If you have the right system, we're going to talk about that right now, how to make video actually a simple system for you as a founder or for your sales team. A lot of marketing teams go, oh, our sales team, they complain about quality leads. But if we just had them talking, and they're so smart, if we just got them talking, but we don't have a way to get them talking because we don't have capacity, because marketing teams are at capacity. That's what the system we're going to talk about today, and how we can You can leverage us, of course, but you can also leverage some of these trust building systems. And one of them is how to capture more video content effectively. This is the anatomy of a trust building system. This is the exact system we use in our business to book qualified leads on a weekly basis that is helping us grow. So it's 4 parts, and there's no start with this, start with this, start with this. You can start at any point. The point is, it's kind of like an ecosystem. It's kind of like you just have to do all of these consistently, and they tend to roll into one another. They don't always. You can skip a part, right? You can do just one, right? We talked about tactics right at the beginning of this talk, which was you can do just one tactic and it can work for you, but it won't be effective if you do it long-term, because tactics come and go in marketing. Strategies stay the course of time. So this is a strategy, basically a bundle of tactics that together create an outcome. And this is the one we're using in our business. So I started doing content on LinkedIn. You can see content. I wasn't doing much connecting conversations or calls. Convo, by the way, means call for those, or it means conversation. It's a slang anyways, but it keeps it short. So I don't have to make it super long. So I started with content, but then I realized, wait, I'm not getting the leads I want. I was getting a trickle of leads. So what can I do? And I started connecting, going back to that strategy or that tactic I shared earlier with, but not buyers, with partners, people in my industry. So content with connecting with people in my industry. And then I started getting referrals and starting conversations, right? Connecting and then turning those connections into conversations. And what I mean conversations is email, DMs, and comments. And we'll talk about that in a minute. And then that led to calls. So Zoom calls for me, Google Meet, things like that. And they got to meet, and then they saw my content some more. And then maybe they gave me a referral. So any one step can get you a client. You can see the client in the middle. But when you do them together, you're basically hedging your bets. It's like investing in the stock market, right? It would be very foolish of me to invest in just Coca-Cola. Very foolish over the long term. Maybe not Coca-Cola, because it's been stood the test of time. Although these days, I know young people are drinking less and less pop. So maybe that would be foolish long term. But if I invest in Coca-Cola plus a bunch of other stocks, I'm hedging my bets. I believe that over time, the stock market as a whole will go up, even if individual stocks fail. That's the exact same thing you want to think about when it comes to a system for LinkedIn. That's why you have these 4 different things going on, and they all together lead to a consistent stream of clients when you do them well. So again, we talked about this before. None of these are going to blow your mind, right? Christine, I'm sure you're like, none of these are mind blowing. None of this is new to me.
But like you said, it's a solid strategy to bring combined efforts, right? It's not putting all your eggs in one basket, kind of like during COVID. People that had no online presence, whoops.
Yep.
They had a big problem during that time, right? All of a sudden they
do.
had to scramble, right? So if you have a multifaceted approach, right, now you've got some opportunities there.
Exactly. And this is all in the context of making B2B sales work for you on LinkedIn. So we talked about, well, what's a simple system for video, Justin? How can video be simple? It is this simple. I call it the Content Buddy system. You pair up with somebody in your company, or if you've got a small company and maybe there's anybody in your company that you're like interested in talking with on a regular basis, you pair up with a colleague, somebody at a different company. So maybe somebody you want to build a deeper relationship with, like a partner, somebody who serves your audience. You pair up and you say, hey, what if every month we meet together and we record the conversation over Zoom and we just ask each other questions about each other's businesses, and we record that, and then guess what? You've got all the footage you need from that conversation, just 1 hour together, 30 minutes together once a month, to create so much content, even if you don't even use the videos. Ideally, you'd want to use the videos because we talked about why that builds trust faster, but you don't even have to. You can create posts, you can create blogs, and it's going to just get your imagination going. One of the biggest benefits our clients have when we interview them is they say things like, wow, you're making me really think. Like when we work with a client over a span of months and over a span of a year or more, they start thinking about their business like a thought leader. And they start meaning that they're now thinking big picture. They're thinking strategically. They're getting out of their own head about how they think about things. And often they're doing things the right way, but they never thought about it that way. So what it does is if you have the Content Buddy system implemented with you and a colleague, especially someone outside of your business, you're going to get questions from a different angle you've never thought about before. And it'll help you talk about your business in a much more impactful way. In your sales calls, in online talks, if you give a talk, if you go on a podcast, things like that. So it's kind of like the benefits of a podcast without the pressure of a podcast and without the time commitments of guest podcasting. Plus, you're also building trust with that other individual at a deeper level over time. So it's a win-win-win.
I think you're helping draw the information out of each other, right? In a less threatening way. It's like, ooh, yeah, right. You'd be amazed what you can come up with, especially if you put two minds together, right? And they start bouncing ideas off of each other, right? You can come up with things you wouldn't have thought of on your own.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's what I call the content buddy system. This is not a revolutionary idea, but that's my way of talking about how you can leverage the power of conversation, like you and I are having occasionally in this presentation, Christine, to be able to draw out content that's in your head somewhere, but you would probably never have a chance to talk about it. I use this in my business. This is basically what we do for our clients on a paid basis, but you can find any colleague and use this and leverage this to create video content simply. And then you're done. You think, well, what about the editing? Well, you can run it through a tool like what we use. We use Riverside, or you can use Opus Clips, Opus AI, and you run it through and it will create some clips automatically of you talking. And guess what? You got all the short video content you need for the month. So that's how you can create content easily using this part. So the next part is connecting. We talked about content. Let's talk about connecting. Connecting is an important part of LinkedIn. I've talked to a couple clients over the last year and they're like, well, I want people to connect with me. And they're missing the whole point of like using LinkedIn as a tool. It's like saying, I'm going to go outside, but with one shoe on, or like I said earlier, like I'm going to go box with one glove. Well, why not connect with people? You're not hurting anything. Go make a list, go connect with those people if you think they're qualified, buyers or partners, right? And this is what I do every week. I connect with people that are potential partners and potential buyers. And we have different ways of vetting those people. And we're not spamming them. We're not cold pitching them, just connecting with them. And then if it's a good fit, then I'll DM them. We'll talk about that next and then go from there. But you can do this. And this is a screenshot from just vanilla LinkedIn, where you just go to your search feature. And I don't know if you can see it. You can't. It's covered up by the word connect. There's a word founder. I just looked there. I looked for people, second degree connections, United States, and a couple other filters. And there's this is cool about LinkedIn. You can do this very easily versus other platforms. I can't do this on TikTok. I can't do this on YouTube, but I can do this on LinkedIn. And you can literally connect with your ideal buyers very easily on LinkedIn and make a practice of this every week. It's not rocket science. Different people have different ways of doing it. We have our own way, but essentially content, connect, and then conversations, or convo, as I call it here, shorthand for that. DMs, comments, and emails. This is what I mean is you need to then reach out, go from the one to many approach of content, right? I'm going to post one piece of content. It gets seen by 100 people, 1,000 people, 10,000 people. That's fine. But after your network sees that, are you prompting them to have individual conversations one-on-one? So you have to move from a marketing mindset of one to many to a sales mindset of one-to-one. And just think, what am I doing to reach out to my network and see how they're doing, and partnerships, but also prospects. And it's just a practice to implement. There's an art and a science to how to send DMs to your network, how to make good comments. Don't use AI. Please don't use AI. Please, I beg you, do not use AI for commenting.
Yeah, we know.
Everyone can tell it looks so bad. It's like going around in the street and like throwing Post-it notes on people's foreheads and saying, "I see you." Like, it's just so annoying. Don't do it, guys. Don't do it.
When you've got a 2-word comment, we know it, and it has no relation to anything in the post. Yeah, we can tell that it's not authentic, right? It's better to not make the comment at all than to make the comment and look bad, right?
Yeah, I would say it's even better if you write 2 really good comments a week on really good buyer or partner profiles than if you do, 1 million AI comments. And that's been my approach lately. I've been busy, right? I'm growing a business. I've got baby on the way. I got 4 or 5 kids now. How many kids do I have? 4 kids now. They're popping out everywhere. So I get it. I'm busy. So some weeks I just have to say, you know what? I'm just going to make a couple comments and that's good. The point isn't the time or the effort. Is I'm going to try to make and guess what? I get people connecting with me, going back to the other right before this, because they see my comments on people's stuff. And they're like, I really like what you said about so-and-so. And then I respond to other comments, and there's a whole commenting strategy. We're not going to go into that, but if you spend time on the platform commenting, even if it's a little bit, but it's real and it shows what you're like, and it's funny, maybe if you're funny, or it's insightful if you have an insight, or this reminds me of a story, you tell a story. you're going to get people, often the right people, wanting to connect with you.
Right. Those automatic DMs to make the connection request is one thing, but if you've got the whole automation flow, we can tell it's obvious that the automation flow is in place. Don't be like, hey, I would love to talk to you. And we share, was it worth the conversation? Like you put earlier, right? But if your follow-up one is pitch, they know it's automated and, you just pretty much completely undid any good efforts you did in the first message.
Yeah.
Right? You just pitched all over them, right?
Right. Oh, there you go. You just pitched all over them. That's a new one. Yeah, it's no fun. And there is a time and a place for letting people know what you do. I've been challenged on this line of thinking recently by one of my mentors, Tanya Alvarez, and she said, some of the busy decision makers, they almost kind of need a pitch sometimes, or at least a short way to make a decision quickly about whether a conversation is worth it, because they don't have time to spend time in the DMs going back and forth. So I have been challenged on that, and I'm looking into it. Not saying you should pitch slap people, but
there's a fine line there, right?
There's nuance, right? If you're talking to somebody who's extremely busy and they're really never in their DMs, you have to make it very clear, very fast, why they should consider the next step with you. And often a call is not the next step. It's something else. Would you like me to share a resource with you? Would you like to hear about how we solve this for someone else? Would you, so-and-so, there's different approaches. And then you follow up with something in the DMs.
Difference, you just asked, would you like?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You send you didn't just go, I know you didn't ask for it, but here you go.
Yep.
Here's my 7 paragraphs, 5 videos, and 10 articles.
Yeah. And you have no idea who this person is, so you're not entitled at all to have to read anything from them.
Exactly.
So, content leads to connect. Then you connect with people, and then you start one-on-one conversations, DMs, comments, even emails. And then this is a couple examples of conversations I pulled yesterday from my DMs. And these are often, this one on the left is a conversation with somebody I had over a year ago. So this is a follow-up conversation, but they're kind of like a warm person in my network. And then this one on the right is a follow-up conversation to somebody that we connect. This is a partner. I think this was also a partner. These are not prospects, but I have other examples I can have conversations that have led to calls, which is the next step. But you're just having conversations. And then in here, you'll see a little bit, there's some links. What are these links all about? Well, one, and we'll talk about this at the end here, some value. Nobody's going to want to have a conversation with you if they don't see some value, some gold at the end of the rainbow. We are all thinking about ourselves all the time. It's a human nature. It's a survival instinct that keeps us alive. What's in it for me? What's in it for me? What's in it for me? We're always asking that question. And we're not doing it consciously. We're doing it subconsciously. And Donald Miller talks about this in his book, Building Story Brand, which was why I first learned about this concept of we're all thinking about ourselves. So you have to, when you message people, always be thinking, what's in it for them? How am I going to make this easier for them? And that's where value comes in. What's the value in us starting this conversation and being clear about that? Sometimes value is implied, right? When you talk with a partner, hey, we serve the same audience. I don't have to spell it out that there's value there. We serve the same audience. It's if someone's smart enough, their subconscious will go, oh, they might know people that can do business with you, right? That's the implication. People are smart. We're all smart. So there has to be some value. People aren't going to take a call from you just because they met you. They have to know there's something in it for them. And a call is often too big of an ask these days. We're all too busy. It has to be something else. So these are a couple different screenshots of this is pitching the call. Next up, and I have a couple ideas for you. Want to get on a call and I share away. That's value because we've already had a conversation. I didn't show you right above this of like going back and forth. Tell me about that. What's going on here and sharing insights. And then here on the right, the value is I have a free 30-minute video session I give to folks in my network who I think are a good fit, either a partner or a prospect to become a client or to refer me to clients. And I want them to experience the dialogue experience. And so I offered that to her. And then there's also this podcast that I offer to certain partners that are using content for their businesses. It's called Content Lessons with Justin. Plug there for my podcast. And I said, hey, I said it in the call. I think you'd be great for this. Here's the link. And then I had to follow up a while after and say, hey, how's this thing going? We were talking about, and then she responds and I said, hey, don't forget about the links, because we're all busy and the LinkedIn inbox sucks. Mm-hmm. And she's like, oh, okay, got it. And I'm going to do it now. So there is an element of having a system to stay in touch with people and remembering to come back to things that you have to do to make this whole thing work for you. And this
Now,
is what
remember that LinkedIn isn't always, you're like, oh, we had that message. Where is that? And you're trying to find it and search for it. It takes a while. So don't feel bad if you bump something for somebody. You're trying to continue that relationship. Sometimes they caught the message on the go. They're on their phone.
Right. That's
and they're
a common
meaning to
one.
get to it later. So just because they didn't respond right away doesn't mean they hate your guts. It's okay.
Right. Yeah.
Follow-up message.
I do that all the time. I look at a message. Text messages are the worst because I can't mark a text message as unread to come back to it later. Once you've read it, at least on my phone, once you've read it, it's read and you have to like make a mental note. Or my thing is I just try to get back to them right away and make a quick decision. That's a whole separate discussion. But yeah, often they're on their phone. They saw it. Oh, interesting. And they're going to take an action and then something happens. Their kid drops something.
When life happens and it gets dropped on the list, but they really did want to talk to you. So don't assume because they didn't respond that they don't want to.
Happens a good, I want to say 40% of the time. With people who know me well. Like we've had people who've had conversations with me and they know I'm not a sleazy sales guy. I'd say 30 to 40% of the time, they're like, oh, I just forgot. And so give people a little bit of grace. Don't be afraid to follow. And then, so we go from content to connections to conversations, doing all those. And then we're now booking calls. This is an example of my screen from, I think it was this is last week. All the reddish colors are sales calls. So these are people
out of LinkedIn
with, and I count partnerships as sales calls because it leads to sales. That's the point. So couple of these are partnership calls, and most of these, about the other 2 or 3 are actual legit. Like these are referrals or people from LinkedIn, and referrals come from the partnerships I built on LinkedIn. So it all starts with LinkedIn. I just want to point that out. And so this
great place for finding partners.
This is an outcome, right? This is a good week for me. I usually don't have 5-ish. I have anywhere from 1 to 5. So this is a better week for me. But these are ideal prospects. In fact, Hannah there on last Monday, she closed, and she became a client. And then I had another one, Maureen, on Friday. She closed. These are ideal prospects. They're high closing rate. So this strategy all comes from the activities I've started on LinkedIn. Whether it's partnerships or prospects, whether it's, indirectly from referrals that come from people I build trust with on LinkedIn, or directly with people that see my content and I reach out to them and I give them some ideas. And I say, I've got some ideas for you. You want to meet? Yeah, let's meet. And then we do that. The point is getting on a call with them, because guess what? We're human. We still want to vet, who we're going to be working with. No one has ever bought my video service without meeting with me. It would be very silly if they did. I can't imagine anybody like, hey, let me buy something from you, a service, and then I'll never meet you beforehand. So that's why you want to take people to a call, but you can't jump right to a call. You have to have some value in there. And that's why I have this little bonus in here, like give value to your prospects, to your partners. Some examples, and this is something I look out for my clients all the time. Like, hey, what is the value you're going to bring to the table at no charge to your network? And some people call this a lead magnet. It's various forms of that, basically. But here's some examples. Like what if you did a little 10-minute audit and you sent it to them of their website if you're a web designer? What if you are in marketing and you have all this data from clients and you're like, what if I shared that, anonymize the data, but I compile it, and then I've got this cool like market report for people in this super cool niche that I serve. And then you say, hey, I've got this, what can we go over? I'm happy to show you some insights that we learned from the last year. What if you wrote a book? You could share a chapter of a book. What about a quiz? Sometimes a quiz is a good one because they don't have to meet with you. They can just take the quiz, and guess what? They spits out the results, and then they can fill out their email, and then you can automatically see how good of a prospect they are based off of the answers in the quiz. And then they can get a problem, even if it's a small problem, solved for their business. Quizzes are an underrated piece of value. I don't know if you use quizzes in your business.
And they're fun.
And they're what?
And they're fun.
Oh, they're fun. Yeah. If you do it right. Yeah, absolutely. I love quizzes. Just don't make me sit there for 30 minutes.
Right.
5 minutes max. And case studies are a good one, but you have to be careful. You can't just send those out. You have to build a little bit of rapport with someone and then actually know if they have that problem. This is really a bottom of the funnel, to use a marketing term. Like if they're very ready to buy, this is to help them see you're probably a preferred option. And then a free session. This is our approach. Like I give them a free 30-minute video session. They get the edited video out of it. So those are examples of value. There's more.
Tell everybody, bring your phone out right now. grab that on the screen and take a picture of that, because you're going to wish that you had that.
Yeah.
Right. So take a picture, grab your phone, leave it up there for a second so they can grab it. Get a picture of that, because these are great things that you can take, run with, and put into place today. Because you're like, okay, I'm going to do all these reach outs, but what do I do? How do I've connected with them. Now, how do I talk? What do I talk to them about? Here's some great topics.
Yeah. And I'll give you a tip. You don't just lead with value you should lead with value. But what I mean by this, you don't just throw this at people in the DMs, right? I don't go around, hey, you want to do a free video session with me? I tried that. It doesn't work. What you want to do, because they don't know me, is you want to start a little bit of a conversation, talk about some of the challenges, and hey, I might have a couple ideas for you. And then what I've learned is what I do now is I can talk about the free video session, but often people are really hesitant to do video because they assume it's going to be tough. And this is a niche thing for me. It might not be the same for you, but for me, it's people are very hesitant to do video, even if literally everybody who does one of these sessions walks away saying the word, that was so easy. Like verbatim, everybody says, oh, that was so easy. Like I should probably do a super cut one of these days of everybody that's ever done a free video session. And there'd be hundreds of people just saying, oh, that was so easy. And they just repeat and like, what is this ridiculous video?
No, this was easy. Oh, this was way easy, right?
Yeah, I should probably, that's a good idea. I should probably do that just to reinforce the point. But people before they do it don't know that. And
right.
so
they're nervous. So maybe it's, what if I promise it's easy, or I'll buy you a cup of coffee?
Ooh, there you go. See, this is why I do this. You never know what you're going to learn. Yeah. What if I promise it's easy? Yeah. So maybe I could bring it in. But what I often find is I get on a call with folks, or I lead up to it. And then when I think there's enough rapport there, I say, hey, I do this free video session. Would you like to try it? It's an incredibly helpful tool.
Yeah, I've heard rave reviews about people that have done your free video session, and they're like, oh my goodness, Justin is a miracle worker. He's amazing. It makes the process so easy. So yeah, I've heard rumors too.
See, that's how it works. That's how it's meant to work. So thank you. I appreciate that. So have some value there. Again, this is the system I use. It's not any part of it is groundbreaking, but the idea is that if you're doing these parts consistently, not just content, not just connecting, not just DMs and emails, not just making calls, but you're doing them together, they inform one another, they feed each other. And then from that activity, from that strategy, you get clients over time. And I can attest to that. You saw my calendar earlier. This works. This is an example I want to share before we wrap up. One of our clients, this is a case study of a VC out of New York. Her name's Lenore. She was doing none of those four things. She was doing none of the content, connecting, conversations, or calls. Because she had a lot of business. She was very busy and she was successful. She was actually speaking on stages. She was leading. She's an executive coach / VC / community leader. She had a team she's managing, mom of 2, right? So she's very, very busy. But she didn't have a system to create that content. So what we did is we just essentially used the Content Buddy system that we already covered, helped her create that system. And all of a sudden, all these people with whom she was having conversations, with whom she was already connecting offline, with whom she had built trust and spoken on stages with, who were following her, they all of a sudden saw her show up in their feed. And they're like, oh my gosh, it's Lenore. And so you can see high degrees of engagement. This didn't happen accidentally. We did not manufacture any engagement for her. She got it right out of the gate and she kept it because of all the other activities she was doing off of LinkedIn.
It's another way of keeping top of mind, right?
Yeah.
They had a conversation, they connected with you, and oh, there's a video by her. Oh, let me see what she's up to. Right?
Exactly. So this brings me to my final point, which is you don't need all of these systems. You don't need to do all of this. If you've achieved success, if you have similar systems off of LinkedIn. The point is you have a lot of things you're doing that are effective for you, and you add something to the mix that makes everything else more effective. So guess what? Now she has a steady stream of videos that she didn't have before, so that she's staying in touch with her venture partners. These are funding partners. She really, that are good for her. And then I remember that was like the thing that stood out to me the most. She's like, I'm so excited for these comments I'm getting and these shares I'm getting from venture. All the other results we got for her, that was like the one that stood out to me that she was most excited about. So she's staying in touch with her network. Like you said, Christine, she's staying top of mind. So she added this in. It wasn't a heavy lift, and it's not a heavy lift. She's still one of our clients a year and a half later. And
I want to make sure everybody has a chance to reach out to you, Justin. You got some information for, there it is. As we land the plane here.
Yeah. So this is how
so forgive us.
Yep. Yeah, so you reach out, just find me, look for my name on LinkedIn, and I share my insights there most weekdays. And if you're like, man, I don't know how to crack this nut that is LinkedIn, reach out. Happy to talk with you. Won't be a sales call. It'll just be me telling, walking you through what I would recommend. I do this all the time for my clients. I do this all the time for my network. I believe in being generous with my knowledge, and it comes back to bless me time and time again. So reach out if you have any questions.
This is a great opportunity to get on one of those free content calls with them, right? And talk to them a little bit about your strategy, what you're doing. It might just be a few little tweaks and suggestions he's got for you that you can take and run with. If you want to have that conversation with Justin, be sure to reach out to him, let him know that you saw him on the Giver Marketing Show, and that you wanted to have that deeper conversation. Maybe look at how LinkedIn and video can help transform your business. He comes highly recommended. I know I've seen some of the work that you've done with some of our members, let alone the non-members. And so he does fantastic work. So it's worth checking out. So go ahead, keep that up for just another second. We're wrapping things up because I know we're over time, but I want to make sure everybody gets a chance to make an appointment with Justin.
Well, thanks for having me, Christine. This was good.
Thank you so much. Your wealth of knowledge. You shared so much with us. We're really lucky to have you. We appreciate you tuning in and being part of our Tuesday marketing broadcast. Come hang out with us every Tuesday. And one of the other things we've got going on is on Wednesdays, we have networking for marketers, PR, media. So if that's the space you're in, don't be a lonelypreneur. Come hang out with us on Wednesdays, 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 Eastern. Register at givermarketing.com/networking, and we'll see you there tomorrow. And of course, every Tuesday for our Tuesday marketing broadcast. Thanks, y'all, for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Thank you, Justin.
Thanks, Christine.